Ethan here. So, the other day I asked you all to send me in questions for an Ask Me Anything type interview, and the responses were fantastic. And so I'm here to answer those questions. Also, I'm going to go from the easiest questions first to the most difficult, and then there's going to be a lightning round at the end, but I'm not telling you what that's about because it's going to be a surprise. So, first question comes from Calvin. He asks, what is your favorite style of hat other than fedoras? Very simple. I'm a big fan of Homburgs, Panama hats, and classic cowboy Stetson hats. In fact, I have a Stetson and I used it in my Big City Cowboy video. I also love Panama hats because they are very classy and you can wear them with almost anything. My favorite style of Panama though is the kind of style seen being worn by Sylvester McCoy during his stint as the 7th Doctor. I love that style of Panama hat. And then Homburgs, I think they're just the most classy of gentlemen's hats. Second question comes from Levi. What is your favorite role you've ever taken on? And what makes it your favorite? Thus far, in the 4 or 5 years that I've been acting, my favorite role that I've taken on, I think, had to be Martini from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It was a small role, but I had put so much into the character, so many little details and tics, and I loved playing him a lot because I found him to be so fascinating. And I took the character design for him and put it into a different character in a different story. Like, that's how much I loved it, because I had never played someone like Martini before. I had never played a mentally disturbed character. Okay, these next few come from my friend Pat. She's got a lot of good ones. Do you prefer theater or video work? I love video work because there's a lot that goes into it, something that I've always been attracted to. But in the terms of overall, I really love theater because of the natural connection there is between actor and audience. There's a slight disconnect in film, but the beauty of film is that you can watch it over and over and over again and you can find some connection. But with stage, it's just, you're right there in the moment with the characters, with the actors, and it just makes for a more, in my opinion, natural experience. A little bit more of a genuine experience, if that makes sense. How did you get into filmmaking? Very simple. I got into filmmaking because I grew up watching Turner Classic Movies with my grandmother and mom, and I fell in love with the style of those films. Films like Maltese Falcon, It Happened One Night, just the classics. And then I started watching more and more films that were made from the 90s and 80s, and I fell in love with the style of those. Specifically, the two films that really got me into being a filmmaker were Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs and Christopher Nolan's Memento. Those two films are the most influential for being a filmmaker, or for me to be becoming a filmmaker. What are your long-term filmmaking goals? I want to tell all the stories that's in here, have them on the big screen or the small screen. I have stories that I want to tell people, and I want to tell it in a cinematic way. And if even a handful of people get some enjoyment out of it, then I will have succeeded in my goal of being a filmmaker. That's really my long-term goal, is just to have made something that people enjoy. That's something that people find comfort in, like I found comfort in the films that I grew up with. You've been at the challenge for 70 days now. 74 counting this one. What's your favorite episode so far? It's the episodes involving me in the long black overcoat and the flowers. Specifically, my favorite is You Have to Let Me Go, because that one was just the crescendo of the entire series, and I had fallen in love with the way that the camera was fluttering all over the place, but still finding focus on that rose. And in fact, the really shaky camera movements in You Have to Let Me Go is actually just me trying to adjust the camera. I'm working on a tripod from the 1940s. It's called a Hollywood Junior. It is a very old man. He has served me well, though, but it's a bit finicky to get set up, and that's what it was. So I just kept it. I added the film grain over it, the camera burns, the whispering, and the burning house sound effect to simulate what I think somebody dying and seeing their life flashing before their eyes looks like. I'm sorry that was such a long ramble, but yeah, that's You Have to Let Me Go is my favorite because I had the most fun with that, the most artistic fun. What are you filming on? I'm filming on a JVC Avarion. I got it in 2009 for Christmas, and I've been filming with it ever since. I do want to upgrade my camera at some point. I love Grace, that's what I named her. I named my camera Grace. She's a good camera. She's filmed everything in my life, from the beginning of my high school days until now, but I wouldn't mind upgrading to maybe a Canon, because those are beautiful cameras. My overall goal when I have enough money is to buy a Red camera, because that is the most commercial cinema camera that you can buy. Perhaps one of the most elegant cameras I have ever seen people film on. What is your absolute favorite book? Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. This is the first real book that I ever read, and I fell in love with the story. It is kind of a cliche for somebody to say that. I love the book just a little bit more than I love the musical, because the book has so much visceral humanity in it, which is interesting because it's a story about a man who's slightly a monster. How did you meet Craig? I met Craig when I was in junior high. He just showed up on my doorstep one day. How long has Craig lived with you? Since I was in junior high. Why is Craig being hunted? I have no idea, still trying to figure that one out. Can you interview Craig and or the Phantom? Yes! Those will be my next interviews. Thank you for the video idea, Pat. These next few questions come from my buddy Bradley. At what point did you realize you loved Indiana Jones? Ever since I can remember. In fact, I still have the VHS tape that I used to watch Raiders on. And Raiders was the only indie film I had. And it was the only one I could ever get. I remember watching the film. They had commercials for Temple of Doom and Last Crusade, as well as the Adventures of Young Indiana Jones. But no matter how or when my family went to Blockbuster, they never had Temple of Doom or Last Crusade. And I did not watch TOD or LC until, I think, a month or so before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And the first time I did watch it, a friend of the family had let us borrow her DVD collection of it. I knew that Indy was the series for me. Like, I had already known that I adored Raiders of the Lost Ark, as evidenced by my Raiders fedora here. 80 vintage fedoras. I will sing their praises all day. I loved the idea of adventure. I loved Harrison Ford. Not only that, but being somebody who's so into history, it was awesome to see an action hero who cared so much about the preservation of historical artifacts. My personal favorite Indiana Jones line that I use so much on a daily basis is, "It belongs in a museum." I just love the fact that that is his motto. It belongs in a museum. It's not just fortune and glory. It's, I love this stuff, and I need to protect it as much as possible. What is your greatest fear? My greatest fear is not being able to tell my stories, like dying before I can get them out there. What's your ideal job? Living on my acting. Being financially stable as an actor. That is my ideal job. What is your dream house? Small cabin in the woods. Not even joking. That sounds cliched, but I'm serious. I'm talking an Evil Dead style cabin out in the middle of the woods, where it's just me and I can enjoy the silence of the woods and the rain, and I don't have to hear people honking their horns at 2 in the morning or sirens coming across my neighborhood street. What type of actor do you think you are? Character actor. I'd love to be the leading man like Harrison Ford, but I also love being a character actor because there's such a variety and the roles that I'm given and what I can do with those characters. How long have you been acting, and what's your top 3 favorite roles? I have been acting since, so legitimately acting, I've been acting since high school and then out of high school. But I've been making videos for a long time, and I've been acting like a nut job since I was a kid. My top 3 favorite roles: Martini from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Otto von Bruno from Bullshot Kramen when I did it in high school, and Ross from The Elephant Man. It was my first role ever, and I absolutely adored the diving into his character and figuring out who he is and his wants and desires. Also, I got to do my first Cockney accent, which was fun, and I was told that I sound like Michael Caine when I do my Cockney accent. When I did my Cockney accent then. This next question comes from my buddy Ron, and I really adore this question. How do you choose your shots? Do you shoot your coverage first? How do you choose your shots? Do you shoot for coverage first? I guess I'm asking, how do you build your sequences? For me, my building of sequence is very organic. It happens in the moment when I'm filming anything. If something catches my eye in my peripheral, or just in front of me, I will film it. It's all very organic. It just happens. It's never a planned thing. And I should start planning it, but man, there have just been so many shoots where I've just been pointing the camera at something, and out of the corner of my eye, I'm just like, I want to shoot that now. This is done. That's next. Especially when I'm editing, I want to ensure that each shot complements the next. I want to ensure that when the first shot is gone, the second shot is just as engrossing. I want the audience member to really wonder what's going to come next. I think I learned that trick from David Lynch, because if you watch any of his films, no matter the shot, it's always this intense feeling of, I need to know what's coming up after this. I need to know how this is going to end. And so I hope that's what I achieve in my stuff, that people want to keep watching it because they like the visuals I've put in. But yes, that's how I build my sequences. It's all very organic. It just happens. So those were all the fun, serious questions. And now my friend Max sent me perhaps some of the best questions I've probably ever read in my life. So, here we go. Question number 1. What do you think a Krabby Patty tastes like? I imagine that a Krabby Patty tastes like a hamburger that was left in a freezer overnight and then very poorly heated. Very squishy, not tender or juicy, just kind of squishy. If Pepsi and Coke fought to the death, who would draw blood first? Coke! Coke always draws first. Pepsi just sits there waiting to be destroyed. If you were cast as a Batman villain, who would it be, and what would be significantly different about your portrayal? I would really love to play Two-Face. Two-Face has always been my favorite Batman villain, and for me, my portrayal would focus very much on Harvey's internal struggle, the duality that is Two-Face. You have Harvey Dent, who wants to be the good knight. He wants to be Gotham's White Knight. But then there's Two-Face, who understands the cruel morality of the world, that everything is very much based on chance, that no matter what, you're either going to win or lose. I would just, yeah, for me, it would all be the internal struggle of Harvey. If you were a giraffe, would you be afraid of heights? Yes. I already have a natural, I already have a minor fear of heights. So, yeah. If you were to swear your allegiance to a potato chip, which flavor would you liege? Sour cream and onion. Lay's sour cream and onion. What one-word catchphrase will you use from now on? Previous catchphrases are excluded. Devay. I go with Devay. Because David Tennant already has Alonzi. If your hands were spontaneously turned into butt cheeks, what would be the first thing you'd do? I thought about this. I would wear very heavy garments that covered my hands, and then I'd go to shake someone else's, and then when they touched my butt cheek hand, I would take the other one and slap them with it and say, "How dare you touch me in such a way, sir, or madam? I'm an equal opportunity hand butt slapper." If you were forced to murder me, but you got to choose the method of death, how would you kill me? I would tell the Monty Python joke. The joke that's so funny it kills people. I'd tell that one. Would you ever take in a bat as a pet? No, but my sister would. Ah! Magical camera and costume change. Hello, everyone. I'm here in this insert to apologize for being a cotton-headed ninny-muggins. I forgot to film the portion in which I thank you all for your wonderful questions, which I got to answer, which were fun. Oh my gosh. Also, I forgot 2 questions. The first being from my friend Sean, which was, did you enjoy storming the castle? Yes! Yes, I did! Except when the cow was thrown on me. That was the only downer part of the adventure. Secondly came from my father, which was, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? To which I shall answer in the form of a question. What do you mean? African or European swallow? It matters, darn it! Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next day's challenge.